What if one of the most sacred sounds ever spoken is not just a sound, but a complete map of reality? Not a metaphor, not poetry, but a map, a key, a compressed formula for consciousness itself. That is how OM was understood in some of the deepest streams of Indian metaphysics, not merely as a chant, not merely as a symbol, but as the vibration that contains the whole arc of existence, from manifestation to silence. And once you really see that, the symbol stops being decorative. It becomes something else entirely. It becomes a doorway. Most people recognize OM instantly, even if they know almost nothing about where it comes from. They have seen it on books, jewelry, yoga studio walls, meditation apps, and spiritual art. But the strange thing is that the more familiar the symbol became in popular culture, the more its real depth was often flattened. OM is not just a peaceful sound. It is not simply an exotic emblem for calm energy. In the traditional understanding, OM, often written as AUM, is the primordial vibration, the sonic expression of totality, the audible form of the absolute as it enters experience. That already sounds huge, but it goes even deeper, because OM is not only a sound you make, it is also a way of understanding consciousness itself. The first thing to understand is why some people say OM, while others say AUM. AUM is useful because it reveals the inner structure of the sound. It is made of 3 phonetic movements, A, U, and M. Over time, in pronunciation and common use, this becomes OM. But that threefold structure matters because each part points to a layer of existence. That is one reason OM has been treated not as an ordinary mantra, but as a condensed metaphysical teaching. In the Upanishadic tradition, especially in the Mandukya Upanishad, OM is presented as a symbol of the whole of consciousness, not part of it, but the whole of it. And this is where the symbol begins to open. Look at the visual form of OM, and it may seem abstract at first, almost like an ornate script. But in traditional interpretation, it is not random at all. It is a diagram of consciousness. The large lower curve represents the waking state, the state most people believe is the only real one. This is everyday awareness, the world of bodies, objects, names, decisions, deadlines, conversations, and survival. It feels dominant because it is where the ego spends most of its time. Above that is another curve, often linked to the dream state. This is the inward turning mind, the realm of images, impressions, symbols, memory, and psychic rearrangement. It is not physical in the same way waking life is, and yet, while we are dreaming, it can feel just as real. That alone should make anyone pause, because if consciousness can generate an entire experiential world in sleep, then reality may be more mysterious than the waking mind wants to admit. Then, there is the upper curve, associated with deep sleep, not dreaming, not thinking, not perceiving objects in the ordinary sense, but simply undifferentiated rest, where the mind as we normally know it recedes. In many traditions, deep sleep is fascinating because the ego disappears, and yet something remains. You wake up and say, "I slept well." But who knew that peace if the ordinary mind was absent? That question leads directly into the deeper mystery. Above these curves is the dot, small, simple, easy to overlook. But symbolically, it is everything. It represents the fourth state, called turiya. Not the fourth in the sense of one more state added to the other 3, but the reality underlying all 3. Waking, dreaming, and deep sleep all come and go. Turiya does not. It is pure awareness, pure consciousness, the silent witnessing principle that remains untouched while all experiences rise and fall within it. And then there is the crescent-like shape between the dot and the rest of the symbol. This is often understood as Maya, the veil of illusion, limitation, or misperception that prevents ordinary consciousness from recognizing its deeper nature. Notice something important here. The veil does not touch the dot. That is not an accident. The absolute is never truly damaged, divided, or altered by illusion. The veil affects our perception, not ultimate reality itself. This is where OM stops being just a beautiful symbol and becomes spiritual anatomy. It describes how human consciousness functions, how it gets entangled, and how it can awaken. In my opinion, this is one of the reasons the symbol has survived for so long. It is not just meant to be admired, it is meant to be contemplated until it becomes personal. Now let's go deeper into the sound itself. The A in AUM is often associated with emergence, beginning, birth, projection, and the opening of manifestation. It is the first movement, the sound that starts in the back of the mouth, expansive and primary. The U carries the vibration forward, shaping it, extending it, and sustaining it. The M closes the movement, bringing it toward completion, contraction, dissolution, and return. Creation, preservation, and dissolution. Beginning, continuity, and ending. Birth, life, and death. In that sense, OM is not one static sound. It is a cycle, a living pattern. That is why serious students of symbolism often recognize in OM a universal principle. Reality unfolds in phases. Things appear, stabilize, and pass away. Thoughts do the same. Civilizations do the same. Emotions do the same. Ritual states do the same. Even identities do the same. OM contains this truth in sonic form. It is the sound of the cosmos breathing out and breathing back in. And yet, according to the deepest interpretation, even A, U, and M are not the final point. The final point is what comes after the sound ends. The silence. This may be the most profound part of the whole teaching, because if A, U, and M correspond to the changing states of experience, the silence that follows points to that which is beyond change. Not emptiness in the nihilistic sense, but fullness without noise, presence without form, awareness before language. When people chant Om with real understanding, they are not only listening to the vibration, they are also listening for the stillness that remains after it fades. And for many contemplative practitioners, that stillness is the real initiation. To me, this is where OM becomes unforgettable, because it suggests that the goal is not simply to produce a sacred sound, but to discover the silent ground from which all sound arises. That changes the whole meaning of mantra. It is no longer repetition for its own sake. It becomes a method of alignment. This also helps explain why OM is so often connected to the idea of vibration as a universal language. In spiritual and esoteric traditions, sound is rarely treated as a trivial phenomenon. Sound organizes, sound transmits, sound alters state, sound shapes atmosphere. Even in ordinary life, you already know this is true. A single tone can soothe you, disturb you, focus you, or move you emotionally before you even analyze why. Sacred traditions took that insight much further. They asked, if sound can shift consciousness, could there be sounds that reflect deeper structures of reality itself? OM became one of the most powerful answers to that question. Now, that does not mean every casual use of the word vibration is profound. A lot of modern spiritual language becomes vague very quickly. But in the classical sense, vibration is not just a trendy word for good energy. It points to movement, resonance, manifestation, the fact that the visible world is not inert but dynamic. OM represents this principle at the highest symbolic level. It is the audible sign of reality in motion, and at the same time, the reminder that all motion emerges from stillness. That is also why experienced practitioners do not usually approach OM as a magic trick. They approach it as a discipline of attunement. Some chant it before meditation to gather scattered attention and bring the breath, body, and mind into one stream. Some use it to mark the transition from ordinary consciousness into sacred space. Some contemplate the symbol visually, not as artwork, but as a mandala of the self. And in more esoteric contexts, especially where sound and vibration are taken seriously, the principle behind Om overlaps with a broader occult understanding. The voiced current can shape inner states, refine intention, and help shift awareness from the fragmented surface mind toward a more centered mode of being. A person with real experience usually does not use OM to perform spirituality. They use it to remember that beneath mental noise there is structure, beneath structure there is presence, and beneath the constant pressure of the world there is something in us that was never truly fragmented, that matters in daily life more than people think. Someone facing anxiety may use the prolonged vibration of OM, not as an escape, but as a way of reordering the nervous system through breath, attention, and resonance. Someone engaged in serious contemplative work may use it to move from intellectual study into lived perception. Someone in ritual practice may use sacred sound to shift from ordinary speech into intentional speech. These are not superficial uses. They are based on a simple idea. Consciousness can be tuned. And that brings us to a mistake many people make. They assume that because OM is famous, it is automatically understood. But recognition is not understanding. Wearing the symbol is not the same as contemplating it. Repeating the mantra is not the same as entering its meaning. And reducing OM to a wellness aesthetic strips it of its metaphysical force. The symbol is powerful precisely because it operates on multiple levels at once: philosophical, spiritual, psychological, ritual, and symbolic. So let me ask you something. When you think of OM, do you see it mainly as a sacred sound, a symbol of consciousness, or a map of the universe? Comment below, because I am genuinely curious which layer speaks to you the most. And if you have ever chanted OM with real attention, tell me what affected you more: the vibration itself, the silence after it, or the shift in your state of mind. Because for many people, the turning point comes when they realize OM is not asking to be believed in blindly. It is asking to be experienced. That is a very different thing. And maybe that is the real reason this symbol has endured for centuries. It speaks to beginners because it is simple enough to approach, but it also speaks to serious seekers because it unfolds endlessly. The more you study it, the less it looks like a single religious sign, and the more it looks like a complete spiritual formula. The world appearing, consciousness experiencing, illusion obscuring, awareness witnessing, and silence remaining. So in the end, what is OM? It is a sound, yes. A mantra, yes. A symbol, yes. But more than that, it is a compressed vision of reality. It tells you that life moves in cycles, that consciousness has layers, that what you call ordinary waking life is not the whole story, that the sacred is not always found by adding more noise, but often by listening more deeply, and that behind the changing movements of existence, there may be something whole, still, and indivisible. If this gave you a deeper understanding of OM, leave a like so more people can find this kind of serious spiritual content without the usual fluff. And if you are into symbols, esoteric teachings, hidden traditions, and the deeper anatomy of consciousness, subscribe and stay with the channel. Share this with someone who thinks OM is just a meditation sound, because they may be missing an entire universe hidden inside a single vibration. And when this video ends, click the playlist on screen, because the next symbol will make even more sense now that you have seen how much can be concealed inside one sacred sign.